You know, I don't know if this is true. I don't know if it's true. I'm going to preface this by saying this. But I read somewhere one time that...
You read something somewhere? One time.
Come up with your own insult.
One time.
Okay, I used that insult in the last video.
But it was in a video. But it was in a video that people may not have seen, so it could be my insult. That's what personally. Anyway,
I heard that Maury Amsterdam from the Dick Van Dyke Show.
Where is this going?
When he first started out doing comedy, he was doing vaudeville in the 1920s. And
the 20s, really? That early?
The 20s.
Wow,
that's what I heard.
I didn't know that.
This is what I heard, because I don't actually know how old he is.
I knew he was vaudeville, but I didn't know he was clear back in the 20s.
I think it's like late 20s, early 30s. But I heard that he worked in Chicago in a place that was owned by Al Capone.
Really?
Yeah.
That's actually interesting.
And then I heard that he was there when a gunfight was taking place in one of these bars, and that's what made him leave Chicago to go to L.A.
I'll be darned.
And start doing L.A. and New York and start doing these actual comedy things on TV.
Well, you know that Sally, since we're on the Dick Van Dyke Show, that Sally was highly tied to the mafia. I'm talking in a major way.
Yeah.
I mean, she wasn't a mafiosa person herself.
But she was getting paid to sing in these clubs for a long time.
And she knew all these people, and they loved her from the time she was a kid. They loved her. And so, yeah, she had very close ties to the mafia. But anyway, we digress.
The reason I bring this up is because now you could pretend to be your very own version of Maury Amsterdam.
Or Sally Rogers.
Well,
not Sally Rogers.
Rosemarie. In Gangbusters.
TSR's 1982 Prohibition era
game.
RPG game thing.
We're going to talk about it today.
Let's do that.
So this seems like a fun game.
You know, it does. I picked this up quite a while ago.
He's got one of the boxes.
It's been sitting on my shelf here for quite some time. We have not actually played it. There are some great things about it. We talked about it briefly on one of our Patreon videos a while back.
Yeah.
But we thought we would do maybe a little bit more of a dive into it. We're not going to go over every rule. We're just going to try and talk about some of the higher points. Yeah. And then show you also the contents of this game, because they actually had some pretty cool stuff.
There's some cool stuff
that they had involved in this. But I've got to say that I'm a bit less than impressed by some of the components of the game. Not the components. Some of the rule set of the game, simply because there are a lot of details in here. But if you like a lot of detail in your game, this might be the thing for you.
It's a slim book.
When we play it, we will be homebrewing it an awful lot.
Yeah.
But the setting and what they've included for you to play is actually really, really cool. Anyway, it does use, just to get started, it does use the percentage-based system for character development. So you roll percentiles in order to come up with your characteristics. So you end up having muscle, agility, observation, presence, driving, which is really cool because, you know, you guys on the sideboard with their Tommy gun shooting it out. And you also have luck. And then, of course, you have your hit point system. There's a difference between injury and bruising. And so X number of bruises end up being a point of injury. But I think
getting a fist fight.
There's a lot of fist fights and
things.
things.
Getting shot.
A lot of fist fighty stuff going on here.
It's the UFC.
Fist fighty. That's what they call it in UFC. Fist fighty. Anyway, so that's how you generate the character. But then you do end up having, and one of the interesting things about this is that you end up having a huge number of skills and abilities that you can end up adding to your character. But where the game starts to break down for me, and this is coming from a former board game player who is used to a lot of detail in games.
Nerd.
Very much so. There are a lot of angles that you have to be taking care of, and a lot of...
I don't dig any of that.
No. There are, if you want to take a shot at somebody, you have to make sure that you have a 45-degree angle to do this, or a 30-degree angle to do this, or if you use multiple shots from your Tommy gun, you're going to do this percentage, and then a little bit less of a percentage, and then a little bit less of a percentage, based on how many targets you spread it out amongst. Which I get. It's a realistic approach to the use of automatic weapons, but boy, it could be cumbersome. And, I can see combat in this taking the better part of 2 hours to get sorted out.
If we're being honest with ourselves, this is a game, I am sure no one has played this game for an extended, story-based, dialogue-centric experience.
I mean,
if you're playing this game, you're playing it for one reason.
To gun down
to open
people.
up on
Exactly.
some other gangsters.
Now,
That's fun.
there could be some people, and if you are a player, if you are a group who does play Gangbusters on a regular basis, and you have done this over the years,
I think you could.
I want to hear from you, because to me, this is more of a play it now and again, and we'll get to a little bit more of that here in a few minutes. But if you have an extended play campaign, let us know, because I'd really like to hear your experiences with it. The game comes with your rule book, which is, this Bad Larry is 64 pages long. So, it's fairly good. But the cool stuff is you get maps that come along with it. And I will try and find some PDFs of this and put them up. But we'll just hide behind them here for a minute. You end up getting a map of a downtown area of a city on one side, divided up into squares, rectangles, of course. Mm-hmm. And then you get the interior of some of those buildings on the other side of the map, which allows you to, of course, go inside and have shootouts and things like that inside of some of the buildings downtown. But really cool. It's a heavy duty map.
Yeah.
This one has a little bit of a tear in it, which upsets me. But
it's pretty sweet.
It's still in really good shape. Then you have a module. This is the module that I believe came with this box set. This is called Troubled Brewing. It's by Tom Moldvay. And it is the special campaign module.
Prohibition, and then that's funny.
And it says, the Great Beer War. Tires squeal as a black sedan rounds the corner. The peace of Lakefront City is shattered by the roar of a Tommy gun as the man at the speakeasy door turns and pulls his .45. Too late. He crumples to the ground as the sedan speeds away. Trouble is brewing in Lakefront City. This is the first in a series of modules for use with the Gangbuster rules. Trouble Brewing is especially designed for a game judge who needs a background... For the game judge who needs a background in the Gangbusters campaign. Included here are details for the first ward of Lakefront City, a series of ready-to-play adventures, over 150 non-player characters, and a special page of full-color car counters to use with the Gangbuster street map.
Wowza!
So, a lot of cool stuff in this. And again, if the rule system was a bit simpler, we would probably be playing this on a regular basis just to see who could take over the town in the course of an evening. Coming along with this game was the introductory module, Mad Dog Johnny Drake. And it gives you some pre-rolled characters. And then the thing that's cool about this is you can play this without a game master. It's kind of like one of those choose your own adventure type things. You roll a certain thing, you make a decision of A or B, it tells you to go to another of the listing of options. Then there are 102 options. And depending on your choice, you go from 59 to 73, see what that one says. That one might take you back to 84. And you bounce around until you figure out if you were actually successful in dealing with Mad Dog Johnny Drake, which I think is actually really cool, and I think that it's a really good way to get players introduced into a game. Anyway.
To learn the rules.
To learn the rules.
How things are going.
Right, and that's exactly why they say they put this in there. Then, of course, you have... This is the ward map that looks, in some ways, very much like Chicago. I could be wrong there. But then you also have, on the backside, you have the trains and you have streets and things like that. So a lot of really interesting detail that you can use as you drive your cars around shooting up other speakeasies. And I believe that is a same map. I think I got 2 maps when I bought this.
I think you did. Yeah.
I did.
It's got another map.
Anyway, you wouldn't have gotten this if you bought this originally, but I have 2 because I'm lucky that way. And then there are a number of individuals inside here. These are very, very similar to the counters that you would have had with war games. So you have men and women armed with shotguns and Tommy guns and things like that.
Got a bunch of little tiny cars.
Little tiny cars, a lot of them
around.
that you get that there are special rules for. And as I mentioned before, when you have your character, when you're designing your character, one of the important characteristics is how good of a driver you are.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's go on and just take a closer look at some of the rules on this to give you an idea of how it's played. Here's one of the things that kind of started to put me off because of the amount of detail, which I believe would detract from the story that you could develop in this game. Movement actions. It's one of the things that you can end up doing on your characters when your character is expected to do a turn. You can walk, you can run, you can crawl, you can leap, you can jump, you can fall prone. You can stand up, can be combined with drawing a weapon and turning around. You can turn around 180 degrees, which can be combined with standing up and drawing a weapon. You can open and or move through a door. You can break down a door. You can move up or down stairs, ladder, or fire escape. You can crouch or drop behind cover. You can get into or out of a car. You can stand still. You can pick up an object, or you can fall from height. A lot of stuff going on.
That's a little too much.
For our style of
Yeah,
play. Not
yeah.
for everybody. Yeah, other people may love this. For our style of play, it's a little bit too much. Then they have fist fighting actions. Again, they're trying to put some realism into this. Here are the 8 different options. You can close for a fist fight. You can fight fair. You can fight dirty. You can go to hold. You can break free of a hold. You can maneuver. You can disarm someone, or you can fire a pistol. There are gunfighting actions. There are 5 of those. You can draw or holster a weapon. You can fire a weapon. You can reload. You can clear a jammed weapon, or you can aim, which is optional and gives you a bonus if you're going to shoot on the next turn. Then you have your driving actions. 5 of those: start a car engine, drive, do a racing turn, do a bump, or do a cutoff. So, it gives you an idea of some of the complexity of this game. And there are some... I get doing some of this, but to me, this is really borderline war game-ish as opposed to role-playing game. I think they've gone, maybe consciously even, they've gone for a mix between playing one of those early war games and having it an RPG where you can carry your characters on to the next level if they survive. I think that this is the kind of thing that you would do in Fight for the Skies. You would have your pilot, you would fly around and play basically a war game style of combat for aerial combat in World War I. But if you survived long enough, you would carry your pilot on to the next stage and they could do more things. And I think that there are some elements of that in this. Correct me if I'm wrong. They do have a lot of cool things in here, though. They have special weapons. The Thompson submachine gun is one of those. And here's kind of the detail that they get into. If you use a burst from the Thompson machine gun, a burst inflicts 20 points of wounds if there is only one target in the area of the burst. It does 15 points of wound for each of two characters in the area of the burst. 40 points of wounds divided evenly, drop fractions, among all characters in the area of the burst if 3 or more characters are present. You get what I'm saying here.
Yeah.
But then, based on what you do, you have all kinds of gunfight modifiers. If you're standing still, it's fine. But if you're behind cover, there's a -30 on your percentage die roll to try and hit something. The list of those modifiers goes on and on and on.
Yeah. Is this is before?
This is 1982.
So this is before Top Secret?
I believe that this is actually after Top Secret, but I'm not exactly sure. You could grab it up there. I just don't remember.
I was going to say, because Top Secret, it's a similar setting in a lot of ways.
But it's not this difficult.
You're right. Top Secret was before.
Yeah, I wanted
1980.
I wanted to say it was I was going to say 1 year earlier, but 2 years earlier. That makes sense.
That's interesting because Top Secret really did seem to streamline a lot of this stuff somehow. So I'm confused as to why they made it more complicated.
There are all kinds of things. There are rules related to vehicle damage. You have your vehicle damage table. If you roll 2 10-sided die because you got hit by a Thompson machine gun or a BAR or something. Roll 2 to 3. Tire hit. Driver must check for a crash. All the way up to 19 or 20. Windshield hit. 1 passenger wounded. All passengers wounded if shot was a burst from an automatic weapon. So the list of those kinds of things goes on and on. But again, and then when you get to driving, for those of you who may have ever played Wooden Ships and Iron Men, which is one of my favorite games, you have to figure out exactly how you're going to move those ships, and it's supposed to reflect movements of ships on water with the wind. You have to kind of do the same kind of specific maneuvering when you drive the cars in this game.
Oh, okay.
Not that it's not a bad thing, and I love the idea of driving around in these streets on this map and trying to chase down the Elliot Ness and the Untouchables, or vice versa. It could be an awful lot of fun to do, but it is going to be a time-consuming thing.
Yeah.
Then they get into what happens if you have a car crash. There are 6 different things that you could possibly have happen in a car crash. Special driving actions, racing turns, bumping, cutting off. Anyway, I guess my bottom line is a lot of detail in this game.
Seemingly making a rule for everything that could possibly happen. And I understand the intention behind that. I think it, I don't know, for the way we play it, removes the DM a little bit too much from what's happening.
There's little room. There seems that there's little room for interpretation in the actions of the game.
Instead of being the person that decides what takes place in the game, they're just an arbiter for the rule set.
Yes.
And I don't necessarily love that.
Yeah. One of the things I did like about this is that what you do is when you gain experience points, you get to have ability score improvements, and what you do is you spend your experience points on those benefits.
Okay.
So for 2,000 experience points, you could add 1 to your muscle score. For 5,000, you could add 1 to your agility score.
Sure.
Or you can purchase skill sets. So if you wanted to increase your ability in auto theft, you spend 5,000 experience points. If you want to spend 5,000 points, you can get a bonus in your public speaking abilities. And those skills, they stop the list at number 33. With things like ballistics, forgery, martial arts, safe cracking, art expertise, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
Boxing, disguise, finding smuggled goods, etc., etc., etc.
I think that could be cool because it makes the experience you are gaining applicable towards something.
I like that a lot. And I think that they also do open up this whole thing to being more than just a shootout game.
Yeah.
And I think that I don't think it's a real big leap for it to be more than a shootout game, because you can play a reporter and you gain experience as a reporter by going and breaking a certain story. And that's where I think our style of play would be much more likely to fall into it. I'm trying to find, let's see, careers. This is where it was. So you can be a law enforcement person. You can be private investigations. You can be Sham Spade. Sham Spud. Hard-boiled potato detective. So you can be law enforcement, private investigation, newspaper reporting, or you can be a criminal. And that, to me, I think that's where the fun of this game actually is. I would love to play an RPG where you're a reporter trying to break a story on the criminality that's down at City Hall and whatever. That could be a lot of fun.
To sneak into different places and try and get some documents.
And bribing people and meeting people at the the whatever and hoping you don't get caught. So you can be, but then they subdivide that an awful lot. You can be a local police officer, and they give you your salary for those kinds of things, for a lot of different salaries. You can be in law enforcement, you have access to the following things: crime labs, fingerprint files, coroner's offices. You can get search warrants. So you get access to those kinds of things to help you in the game, but you also end up having to make sure you don't make a false arrest. You lose experience points for killing suspects or having false arrests, which is good. I think it puts some real brakes on something that could be easily get out of control.
Go off the rails a little bit.
Exactly. You have, as a private investigator, you can have your license revoked. Sometimes it's hard to get employment at all. You can carry a concealed weapon. You can arrest anyone who is wanted by the police. You can arrest anyone who is actually committing a crime. But you get your bonuses by solving special cases, which I think is another interesting thing.
Yeah.
But then I love the idea, I keep coming back to this, the idea of being a newspaper reporter. You can have several different beats as a newspaper reporter. You cover City Hall, you cover police, you cover the police, you cover society in general, or you cover business. But then where the crime comes into all of those different things opens up a lot of opportunity, which I think could be a lot of fun.
The society one could be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Reporting on like an art gallery that has a theft or something. That could be really neat.
Well, and they put a lot of information in here about getting assignments from your editor. If you're a newspaper reporter, you get assignments from your editor. Some typical assignments are listed below as: there's a rumor syndicate boss Al Tolino is trying to fix the welterweight championship next month.
No.
Check it out. I mean, come on.
Awesome.
That'd be a lot of fun.
Pretty sweet.
Another one. A friend of mine says this guy Antonelli, who owns Antonelli's construction company, is a crook. Find out why he keeps getting construction contracts from the city. I mean, this is really thought out.
Yeah.
There's a lot in this.
It's cool.
The apartment building that burned down on 79th Street yesterday? How come there weren't any fire escapes on it when the city code requires them?
Whoa.
There was a traffic accident at Dutton Court this morning. Some guy plowed into an... So there's a typo in here. Plowed into a very expensive imported car. The guy who owns that car is a city health inspector who makes this much money a week. How can that city health inspector afford to be able to buy a car like the one that was plowed into? So, I think that there's just a lot of really cool things that they've worked into the play of the game or the concept of the game. It's just the detail that wears out for me.
But I still like that they wrote it all down.
Oh, I do too, and I think that as a reference for being able to come up with things to play this, for a way to play this game, they've really done a good job.
No, I think that could be a lot of fun. And I do like the fact that you don't have to be a gangster.
Right.
Because I think that could be fun, but living in a place and having a character where there just are gangsters present offers a lot of different opportunities. So I think that's really a big part of it for me, is that, you're trying to fight crime in your own way. Yeah.
And so, but it's a risky business, and there's all kinds of places you might have to go that are shady and dangerous. There could be a lot of adventure in this game. That's kind of an overview of the overall game. Like we said, they had this Mad Dog Johnny Drake module that goes with this, so that you can learn how to play it by playing essentially yourself, or maybe 2 or 3 friends, and you don't even need a game master. But then they do say once you move past that initial understanding of the game module, that you need a game master to help interpret some of this stuff.
Sure.
I look forward to us actually playing this. You get into public opinion.
Oh, nice.
I look forward to us playing this with our more homebrew rules, just with simpler combat systems. And I would probably take. We were talking about it earlier. I have a very simple combat system for a game that we call Cowboys and Vampires that would easily drop right into this. And
it's a fun game. It's exactly what it sounds like.
Yeah, exactly. It makes no pretensions to be anything other than Cowboys versus Vampires.
Yeah.
But the combat system, I think, if you drop that into this and then just use percentage dice for driving cars and things like that, I think it would be a much more streamlined and a game that was more appropriate to the way that we like to play.
Yeah, but we hopefully will play it soon, and when we do, we'll give you an update on what our thoughts are.
Yeah.
What we did.
Yeah, we just thought I love the game. I love the concept that they came out with on this. It was developed by, and like I said,
TSR.
TSR, but I'm talking about the people who, I'm talking about the people who actually designed it. Like I say, Tom Moldvay he's additional concepts. The original concept was a man by the name of Rick Krebs, and I don't know much about Rick Krebs. The original system design is Rick Krebs, but then Tom Moldvay played a role, Harold Johnson, Al Hammack, David James Ritchie, and David C. Sutherland III. So, anyway.
The art in it is cool, too.
The artwork is in it, and I think that's why I like some of the... I like the artist that is involved with this. The artwork is cool. The concept is cool. Yeah. I think that overall it is a good game. And if you're heavily into playing retro RPGs, I think this is one that you want to pick up.
Yeah.
I believe there may have been some additional versions of this that came out. And I think there were some 2 or 3 versions that came after this.
Wow.
I think, or I might be mixing this up with something else.
Huh.
But they did have a lot of modules that were available for
That's what it seems like.
Quite a few. So I think during its time, I think that it was popular for a few years there.
Yeah. If you have any stories about you playing the game, or big memories with it, we'd love to hear about them.
Yeah, and like we were saying at the beginning, if you have a campaign that you've run on Gangbusters, which I can see doing for us if we had the rule changes.
And with some of these different characters, different scenarios you can find yourself in.
Yeah. I think that we could have ended up doing something like this because I have always had a fascination with that time period in American history.
Yeah.
Anyway, let us know about your experiences with Gangbusters. Hopefully this gives you some insight into another TSR, gives you some information into another TSR game that came out in the 1980s, early 1980s. Hopefully you'll be able to have the chance to check it out, and we will fill you in on our play of the game as time goes by.
Indeed we will.
Until then, I'm Jim.
I'm Alex.
Keep your sword arm free.
Or your Tommy gun arm free.
Ooh, nice. Nice.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.